Okay, Amitofo. Uh, we will start with the four great vows. Please bow. I vow to deliver innumerable sentient beings. I vow to cut off endless vexations. I vow to master limitless approaches to Dharma. I vow to attain supreme Buddhahood. Welcome to you all to this lecture. The lecture topic is meditation, calmness, and concentration. And because of causes and conditions, I didn't get back to reviewing this completely. This is based on something that I wrote on the plane going back to Connecticut to conduct a retreat. Give me 1 second. I'm having some audio. Hopefully that'll cut it. Okay. We always talk about that there is a I'm sorry, I'm still getting the echo. I apologize for the technical difficulties.
It doesn't sounds good to me, Gilbert.
I'm sorry?
It's sounding good. The audio is sounding good.
Yeah, I'm just getting an echo on my side. So I'm just going to move my phone away and then we'll go from there. I won't hear it. Okay. In right view, we talk about that there is a true and proper understanding. And this goes in terms of meditation. As I practice and meld that into the Dharma, what I do in terms of my practice then becomes something that I'm able to describe how to meditate. And things that I do sitting naturally, I have to reverse engineer it and say, how did I get to that quiet state, or how did I get to this samadhi? Because it becomes natural, but I have to back it up to try to see, how did I get there, so that I can leave these breadcrumbs to this proper samadhi. So I'm going to try to do that tonight and show you how to get into a proper samadhi using the right concentration. If we don't do that, the mind without right views is going to be tossed and turned by habitual patterns. Mind impressions are going to appear and be moving very quickly and jumping from mental state to mental state. It does that way because in the mind of the, we could say, of the five skandha perception, it works in a binary way where it has to let go of something to hold on to something else. Now, this happens fairly quickly, so it gives the impression that there's movement in mind. And it also, because it's happening so quickly, it's imperceptible to an obstructed mind to see that these thoughts are arising. It would be if you showed somebody a film strip and you see moment to moment to moment, there's different movements. And if you see one here and the last one is here, but in between there is movement up to give it the impression that there's movement. The mind is the same way. When it's obstructed, it moves too slow and it can't see how to just simply calm down and to use this concentration. When we see things like this, it could be analogous to us sitting on a train and looking out the window of the train, looking directly straight out the window. Everything passes by so quickly. It's hard to distinguish between telephone posts and trees, different kinds of cars or clouds or people, because it moves by so quickly. We really don't have an opportunity to understand what we're viewing. When we sit to meditate and allow mind to meditate, not the ego, then everything begins to slow down. It does this in a very interesting way because we don't know how to approach our cushion. When we don't know how to approach our cushion, we get ourselves ready and we're saying, okay, I am now going to launch my method. And it's as if we're going like this with a slingshot and pulling it back. Pow! It takes off so quickly and we're lost. We're kind of holding on. And as the thoughts pass by so quickly, we have no chance in practicing in that way. And it's very difficult to get into a deep samadhi with that. You will get into a samadhi at some point, but you're going to muscle to get into it. And it won't be a very deep samadhi experience. When we simply approach the cushion silently and serenely, we're calm. We're calm. When we talk about concentration, we don't talk about concentration like holding the method so hard, so stiff. This will produce tension in the body. It will produce obstructions. It will be this mind of attainment that's looking like, when is it going to loosen up? But when we come to the cushion with the right concentration, the concentration is on just this mind, is the Buddha mind. We are not looking for the mind anywhere. It is right there. We don't look for the self or try to push the self out. The self is an illusion. So our correct understanding of what is appearing in mind assists us in being able to calm down quickly. So when we approach the cushion, we approach it with this serene calmness right from the very beginning. So just now, as you're watching me, just bring the mind to a calmness. Not your mind, bring mine to a calmness. Let it settle in. Don't try to understand. Feel. Feel the mind settling. Very, very calm. Silently, serenely. The concentration that you need to be able to do this is very little, just a tiny little bit, like between your thumb and your forefinger. You're holding the method, holding everything so lightly. Don't get too excited. Don't get impatient. You're already there. You're calm, serene. The only thing that you have to do is maintain that, and you maintain it by holding the method and utilizing the concentration that you're concentrating in the contemplation of the method. Mind is contemplating. Mind is contemplating the method. The method arises in mind. So mind is looking right at mind. It's contemplating mind. There's no you there. There's no you concentration. You can do this, but it will take you longer to do it in this way. Sometimes it's said that Chan school doesn't emphasize concentration. So we have to learn different methods to concentrate. When I was practicing Qigong, we had many types of methods to concentrate. One's from looking at a candle flame, or maybe trying to move the candle flame, or looking at a little object tied to a string and just watching different kinds of things. But those methods only produced a concentration that was not necessarily in accord with right view. This kind of a concentration is like a concentration that one has if they were an assassin. And this is used in the sutras, and they talk about this and say that assassin has this concentration that his mind is very still, very careful. And when they are prepared to draw back the bow, everything is quiet, everything is clear, nothing is disturbing them. But there's no illumination there. That's just a mechanical concentration. That's different. If it wasn't, then, people would say, oh, Gilbert says to concentrate like an assassin, so maybe I should become an assassin. No, that would be nonsense. It's a different kind of concentration, and I want to distinguish it. It's the right concentration that we use. So when we concentrate and we approach our cushion, we are already in a silent, serene state of mind. We come to the cushion quietly, very stable mind. Not us. What is so hard for us to put the self down, to put it to the side, and let mind meditate? Not self, not ego, not personality, not a life, not a being, just mind. When you're there, if you're sitting just in mind watching mind, and it's calm, you've already started correctly meditating. It's quiet, serene. When you sit and you forget this because you've lost your concentration, then the thoughts come in. Many of them come in so quickly. And when those thoughts come in, it's hard for us to be able to repel these thoughts. And they undermine our ability to meditate. So we can start with concentration, we can start with the method. And if we don't understand the right concentration, we don't understand that mind is meditating, then it will begin to invest in that which appears to be the self. And the more we think about that, the more we think about what is this, the self, the more the self will then begin to appear. And it is unfortunate that it does that. But when you can keep the mind in the present moment, it is the Buddha present moment, not your present moment, not a point between the future and the past. Who could even begin to define that? But it's the Buddha present moment. This is very important. And as you begin to practice and study the sutras, there's one sutra called the dwelling place of Manjusri. So where does Manjusri dwell? Manjusri, he doesn't dwell anywhere, but he doesn't also have non-dwelling, because the mind is clear. Everything is mind. So if you have a house, and perhaps now I'm in my office, later on maybe I go to the kitchen, I could not consider those places to be two different places. I dwell in this house, even though I may not be in that room at this moment, but in fact, I don't dwell in any of those places because it can't define me spatially or temporally. Maybe I'm in this room and in an hour and a half, I'm somewhere else. But can we be defined in this way? Can you put a clock on when you start dreaming and how much time transpires in your dream. You can't do that. A dream may seem to last a whole day, but could have passed in a flash of light or a snap of the fingers. Just then when the alarm went off. And you say, wow, that was a long dream, but it could have been just in an instant. And how can we measure this world, which the Diamond Sutra says it's an illusion, a phantasm, a dream? So we have to use this proper understanding when we're doing things, and especially when we're doing meditation. Otherwise, we're sitting there trying to become enlightened. And I tell the story all the time simply because it fits and it's so proper. The one of the master who sat down next to the young monk and started polishing the tile to make it into a diamond. We can't do that. Pinocchio could never become a human being. The nature is a mechanical puppet, and that's out of the sutras. And in the Sutra, Demonstration of the Inconceivable Nature of Buddhahood, the Buddha asked Manjusri, can a mechanical puppet attain anything? Of course, Manjusri said, no, such puppet does not have the nature. But yet there we sit with this idea that we are going to become enlightened or attain something from it. And we're waiting. How long would you wait? What do you think? You're going to wait 2 years? 2 kalpas? 2 periods of meditation? Click, click, ding. Do you continue to sit? Or is that liberation? It's illusion. And with a mind of attainment and a mind of suffering, it will never work. But you, as we speak, as I speak, are, and I have to measure my words here very carefully, it is not that you possess Buddha nature. It is that Buddha nature possesses you. This is the difference and the mistake that we make. So if we look at each other, and when I say I see a Buddha, it's not that I see a meat puppet Buddha. I see the nature of mind in mind. That which is listening to me right now is not other than the Buddha mind. That which is speaking to you right now is not other than the Buddha mind. But because of causes and conditions, appearances arise, but those appearances are not something that we can cling to, nor can those appearances attain anything. Probably the hardest thing we have in terms of when we practice is that we cling to the idea that we are going to get something or somewhere or some experience. Even if we say we're not practicing in that way, we're practicing in that way, I guarantee you. Unless you get this right, you're making a mistake when you practice. It's not the right concentration. You're trying to to polish that tile to make it a diamond. It cannot work that way. There's nothing there that you could polish. You're there, and then it disappears. Where did it go? It's gone. The mind does not leave, but the appearances are constantly changing. We don't understand that, nor can we. Mind can. This mind that's listening right now can. You just have to turn the mind's eye inward to see this. If you don't do that, then when you sit to meditate, you're sitting from the idea of that I am meditating. These are my vexations. This is my improvement. And I'm getting better. Till one day maybe you do good and then you sit, you just go, wow, I haven't had a thought for a long time. I'm so enlightened. What do you think? Is that a good experience? Of course not. But that's the way we are deceived, because the thoughts come too quickly and they've deceived mind that there is this individual that is meditating. What's wrong with just letting mind be mind? Why do you want to interject this illusory puppet into the equation? I love my illusory puppet. I've known my illusory puppet since I was born. But I'm kind of wondering now, when the illusory puppet dies, do I die? And if I don't die, where do I go? I don't want to go into the ground with the illusory puppet. That's you 6 feet under the ground for eternity. That doesn't sound very appetizing. It's very interesting because some of the practices of the Theravadins are that you imagine that your body has died and it begins to decay. And then you see it putrefying and first like bloating and popping and whatever. And then it just kind of dries up like one of those salted plums. No, I think every culture has a salted plum. No, Santa, do you have them in India? Yeah. So somebody gave me one on the retreat and said, oh, have you ever had these? You know, these are the special Chinese treat. I go, oh, a saladito? You know, of course we have them, you know, but then you begin to look like that. So then do you say, okay, you don't want to claim that body? You don't have to go through all of that. If you want to, you can go through that and see your body decaying, but you just use common sense and know the body is going to die. That's enough. You don't need to see it and smell it and touch it and put your finger, into your belly or whatever. You just have to understand that's an illusion. Even if it's a smelly, stinky body, it's still an illusion. Not only that, but that illusion was created by mind. It belongs to mind. So much the same as the lotus flower belongs to mind. But do you pick one and dislike the other? The ancients said neither sacred nor profane. When you're sitting to meditate, it's neither sacred nor profane. You don't sit there going, oh, I feel so good. Gilbert was right. This feels like I'm in a hot tub. Oh, I can feel the bubbles all over me. That's your imagination. That's illusory thoughts or appearances arising, not the thoughts that you are in a hot tub, the thought that there's even somebody that could consider that they were in a hot tub. That's an illusion. We don't understand that. So we mess up meditation. We take ourselves to be real. But it is this emptiness. And this emptiness is different than the idea of what we think emptiness is. It's all inclusive because all belongs to mind, even the illusions, even the stinky body, even the stinky person that thinks they're enlightened, all illusions belonging to mind. Sometimes I say they fall on this side or they fall on that side. What I'm referring to is the noumenon and the phenomena, the noumenon being that which all of this is projected on. Those are transient, constantly changing, but they're projections in the mind. This is what the Mahaprajnaparamita Sutra says, just projections. What it's projected on has never been born, never created. It doesn't increase or decrease. It doesn't do a head count of how many people are on earth or how many had been there before and how many are coming. It's all contained in the nature of mind. Now, we can't understand that. We have no way of understanding it from the samsaric side. If we try to think about those things, our brain will explode. And there appear to be contradictions. Contradictions after contradictions. Well, how can this be? Or how can somebody say that they're dwelling when they're not dwelling any place? And all these things. But yet, if you allow the mind to settle down, silently, serenely sitting, with no idea of a life and being there, all these contradictions, they dissipate and they're reconciled. It's very funny. You're looking at the same things, but in mind, what appears to be nonsense or contradictions in the sutra suddenly come and click together as if you had solved the Rubik's Cube. And it's like a cosmic Rubik's Cube that you solve. And it all comes together and fits perfectly. You look here, it fits, clicks in. So I'm constantly talking about things clicking in because these are realizations that come up. Maybe you only get a couple of them that click, but later on more and more will click in. And then you do this not by trying to reach for them, but by just simply settling the mind in the present moment, using right view, turning the mind's eye inward. So when we sit to meditate, we don't have this mind that we are practicing, that we are sitting. This is a step back. We don't see this illusory body or the illusory sense of self as something permanent, as something that needs to be there. It doesn't need to be there. What we don't understand is if that happens, then what? And then I'm lost. And I don't want to go down the rabbit hole. I want assurances that when I jump into that void, that's what they call it, jumping into the void. And and then you conjure it up in your mind as this big black hole in front of you that you have to jump into. And there's Gilbert, and you're saying, should I jump in, Gilbert? Go ahead, jump in. No, what's there? You'll never understand. What do you mean? I want some, there's no guarantees. You can either jump or you can get the lifetime guarantee. If you don't jump, you'll come back in another lifetime. But Gilbert's caveat, Gilbert's warning is, I can't guarantee you're coming back as a human being. You may come back totally different than what you think. And what would you say then? Nay, as you gallop away. You guys don't get my joke. But anyway, so the thing is that you have to see things with this right view. Now, about a third of the way down the page, I went off of my script, but it nevertheless reflects what I want to say, because this is important that we have to understand. There is concentration in Chan. There is concentration in Chan. It is the right concentration. You have to know how to use it. You're concentrating in the contemplation of the method. Now, this concentration does not emanate from the self. It is just simply the application of the proper elements to meditate. Awareness is present. Awareness is always present, but most of the time, it's like you're looking out some car window that you haven't washed the car for 6 months. You can barely kind of tell whether it's day or night, but that's about it. When we have right concentration, everything is clear. Everything is this idea of a clear mind. What part of this are we missing? And I look at myself and say, what part of this am I missing in passing that on to you? How to reverse engineer a state of samadhi so that you can have a chance. First thing is, you have to, as Shifu said, give the body to the cushion. What he meant about that is more than just the physical body. It is the ego too. Everything that identifies with the body has to sit on the cushion. It has no function there. The only function it has is holding the body erect. So if you're meditating and all of a sudden you realize your forehead is touching the floor in front of you, then you're not doing a good job of keeping the body there. Other than that, you don't have to worry. The body, ego, personality does not have a function in meditation. Shifu said, give the body to the cushion. And what else did he say? Anybody? I'm sure you know. Somebody can say it. Santa, you say it. Body to the cushion and
Mind to the method.
And mind to the method. It is just this way. So he didn't say give the self to the method. He said give the mind to the method. You see the difference? Give the mind to the method. He didn't say give yourself to the method. This is the key. Shifu was very soft in his ways, and he didn't want to startle people into thinking that there was something that is too fast, too shocking for them. In this retreat I just came back from in Connecticut, I was discussing the Mahaprajna Paramita Sutra. And one of the participants was shocked. She was stunned by what I was saying. Not because she didn't understand what I said, but because she did understand it. I'm saying, there's no you. And she's going, there's no me. And it was shocking because even though maybe she's heard this before, this was the first time, it really sank in. There is no self. She was startled and frightened. That's a good thing. People say, don't do that. You're going to scare the people. I'm like the old Uncle Gilbert that takes the little kids and jumps out from behind a bush and goes, ooh, and scares them. And they said, Gilbert, don't scare the kids like that. They're not going to be able to sleep at night. No, they need to know that. When she heard this, she didn't run away from it. She listened very, very, very carefully. And somebody that's a veritable novice was able to penetrate deeply. So in the course of 3 days, she advanced her practice from just sitting, meditating, feel good, I love you, you love me, to mine and the liberation that comes with it. Why would you want to trade the opportunity to become liberated for fear or confusion or lack of patience? We don't have patience to sit through it. We want it now. We want it before the lunch break. It isn't in this way. There is no lunch break there. That's just an illusion. You're eating imaginary bologna sandwiches. Imagine if you just sat and let go of everything. Then there would be, even as some Theravadins taught, liberation at the palm of your hand or in the palm of your hand. It's right there, right in that moment. You can do it. You just have to know how to do it. When you sit to meditate, sit with a calm mind. As the mind becomes calmer and calmer, thoughts will arise. Most assuredly, thoughts are going to rise. Where are they arising in? This is one of those where you can all answer the question right, okay? Where are the thoughts arising in? I'll lip sync. I can read you if you know what your lips say. If you go, I know what that means. But if you go, then I know what that means too, right? Where does it arise? Mind. Where do those thoughts go after they're in your consciousness? Mind. They don't go out of mind. There's no place, a trash bin. It's not like a computer where you have a trash bin for all the stuff you don't want on the computer. That always got me, how you can have a computer and you want to get rid of stuff, but yet you think you get rid of it, but you don't really get rid of it because it's stored someplace. So all the stuff you wanted to get rid of is still stored. You can't get rid of it. But the reason here is because it all belongs to mind, past, present, and future. All your future junk will still be stored in only one place, and that's mind. All your old junk is stored in mind. No matter how you see it or you try to forget it, it's still there. It has to be. There's no other place. Mind doesn't have a carpet where you lift it up and you sweep all of these things under and say, out of sight, out of mind. No, it's not that way. So, what I'm doing is giving you these real simple analogies to bring you to something so precious and so profound, but it isn't as hard as you think it is. You're not like a teenager where the mom is telling them stuff and they're going, I don't want to think, la 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 la, I don't want to hear it. Don't be like that. Welcome it. Welcome it. Let it come in. That's what the one person did in the retreat, welcoming it. It took me a while to talk her down, though. It's okay. Calm down. Calm down. It's all right. Hang in there. It'll be fine. And she had faith in me and faith in mind and faith in herself. And it worked. But this is how we approach things, is that we have to see that when we're on the cushion, remain calm. Okay? You have to remain calm. But we always find something in mind arising that allures us. It can be, you'll never get this. You're so stupid, playing like you're calm. Wake up, you really need to think about this problem. Or, wow, Gilbert, you're at a totally different level. You're at boss level now. You're at the top. Wow, this is what you should tell everybody. This. No, all of those are just thoughts. Mind functions without the necessity of carrying around all that garbage and baggage. It's neither sacred nor profane. It's just has connections to it. And these thoughts that are sticky, they stick to you and they slow down the processing of your of the mind. Mind, nevertheless, can have states of mind arising within it. But that is not mind. That's something that's arising in mind. For instance, you can have a state of mind right now if you you heard a lot of geese going by, quacking, or a gunshot, or whatever. That's still a state of mind, something that arose in the mind that brought forth all sorts of different things. Oh, I love geese going by, or oh, that shot sounded close, and whatever, fear arising. But those mental thoughts do not define you. Those mental thoughts do not verify you. This is something that's important. Just simply because you think does not verify that you exist. It is the calmness of the mind and the ability of the mind to make wise decisions in the present moment, we call choosing the Buddha. That's important. When we have this kind of a way of practicing, then everything becomes easy. I mentioned it many times, like a hot knife through butter. This is when the mind is not the mind of attachment. It is that way. The choices become easier, smoother, more wise. You'll still make mistakes along the way. That's okay. That's natural because you're still learning how to use this thing. But when you use it in the right way, then you know how to use it. And when you don't need to use it, don't use it. but we're constantly having to use it. I have one dear sister. I love her so much. Well, I have two sisters, but the one is a dear sister. But she likes to talk, and she's always talking. And I think if I sat her on a cushion, she would probably explode in 5 minutes if I told her, "Don't think, don't talk." Probably the talking would have been the most hardest for her. And she's a very pleasant person, thank goodness, because if you talk a lot, then you don't want to have an unpleasant person talking at you. But still, it's difficult for her to slow the mind down and to perceive that this is just habit energy that perceives that it needs to talk, that it has to express something, an opinion or an emotion or whatever. We don't have to be like the the guy on Star Trek. What's his name? Spock. No, I think he was a Vulcan, right? And and so you can tell I'm from the 70s. So anyway, you that's uncaring, kind of like removed away from things. It is just that we use the middle way. It doesn't mean that Gilbert disappears or Gilbert's sense of humor disappears or anything. It just is that moment to moment, there is this understanding that everything is an appearance. And there's a liberation in that, an incredible liberation. Even though your vows bring you back to this funky world that we live in, you still are not tainted by the world and all of the mental impressions and mental states. They arise, but they do not influence mind. When I am Gilbert, then I am influenced by the environment and I react to the environment. I can be sad, I can be happy, I can high five, low five, or be in a low state. These days, that doesn't happen too often anymore. And, to me, that's pretty good. When I was young, I used to walk around thinking I was a judge of the world. I had an opinion on everything. Too hot, too cold, too salty, too loud, too this, whatever it was. There was no liberation there. I was controlled by the environment. And here I thought I was the judge of the environment, but I was just a pawn of all of these attachments. When we begin to practice Buddha Dharma, we see the world differently by turning the mind's eye inward. In this point, as we turn the mind's eye inward, we see things from mind. You can do it. You really can do this. You just never mind the ego. You don't have to kick the ego out, pack its bags, and say, there you are, go away. But I don't want to go. You just have to illuminate. When you sit to meditate, mind is illuminating mind. These vexations, these positive experiences, nirvana and suffering, so funny that they're considered one of the three seals. How is that? Nirvana and suffering being the same. The Mahaprajnaparamita Sutra indicates that is in that way, that they're not different. Just the same as the minds of the Buddhas and the minds of sentient beings are not different. You already have it. Not bad, right? Not bad. You're in the club. So why would you want to be any less? Why would you want to be a dream or hold on to the idea that you're a dream? There's no money in that. There's nothing that you're investing that's lasting. And if you don't believe me, like I always mention, come back in 100 years and we'll have a debate on it. It's not going to be there. But this mind, never born, never dies. It is what is dreaming. When we awaken to that, it is called non-conceptual wakefulness. We can move around in the dream, all over the dream. We know it's a dream. We know that we have an ability to make the dream better. Then it gives purpose to life. Otherwise, what are you doing in this dream? What do you want to accomplish? If you want to do good for people, and there's many of you that I'm very touched by your hearts, that you have that interest. Almost every single one of you are that way. And each of you touching it in different ways. That's why you're here. That's why you're listening to this, because we share that already. All I want to do is to deepen your awakening so you don't fall asleep. It's non-conceptual. Means that we do not attach to things right or wrong, up or down, or whatever. We still function perfectly. We function better than we ever could as an illusory sentient being. We don't have a samsaric agenda that we're trying to do. Samsaric agenda, I'm going to be the richest person, or I'm going to do this and that, or I'm going to have a large family, or I'm going to do this, or whatever, all the things that you could do. Those are all in samsara, and they end in samsara. But to know when you're in a dream, imagine that you go to sleep and then you are in the dream and boom, hey, I'm in a dream. I know I'm in a dream. And you could walk around the dream doing this and doing that, talking to this person and changing it. Why not? It's a dream in mind. It can be changed. You just have to know how. And imagine you could do that. You go to sleep tonight and you can be in your dream and you can do all those things. Why can't you do it now? This is a dream too. It's very interesting when the realizations are like that. It doesn't matter if I dream at night. I am aware I'm in a dream. When I awaken in the morning, I'm aware I'm in a dream. Not bad, right? But what matters is the compassion. Everyone is walking around sleepwalking, not aware that they're in a dream. And that if they awaken, you can't even compare any riches in the samsaric world to that awakening. We'll continue with this next week. And sorry for the technical difficulties. I'm still working on the system. Every time it changes. I don't know whether because I'm traveling with my computer, I'm damaging it or whatever, but I'll try to work it out beforehand. But I hope you can practice this way. So remember, when you sit to meditate, just be silent and serene. Right now, be silent and serene. When you're at work, silent and serene. Concentrate on staying silent and serene. That's the right concentration. It's going to work. You are not trying to transform this meat puppet into an enlightened person. You already have the Buddha mind. What more do you want to do? I should go around and then go to the supermarket and buy a jar of cherries, and I'll put a cherry on the top of my head and walk around. What's that? Oh, that's the cherry on top. No, maybe some whipped cream. We don't need that. You already have it. It's wonderful news. Absolutely wonderful news. Just stay awake. You'll do fine. Okay, thank you for listening to me. I didn't get very far in what my prepared lecture, but I think that this is beneficial. So, okay, I'll open it up for questions and see if I can hang on to the sound here. Okay, thank you.
Hi, Gilbert. Thank you so much for the lecture. I think I needed a live dose. And it's really nice to see everybody. I just wanted to share a little bit about an experience that I've been having. Today's lecture resonated a lot, and just how I think the Dharma has been helping me in my life. Because for the last few weeks, I've been in the Philippines working with rural women and communities in poverty, and to come face to face with people who are struggling to put food on the table 3 times a day and to send their children to school can be really distressing. But I found myself constantly reminding myself that it's a dream and this is all impermanent. And it was like a solace almost. And it really helped me stay calm, more calm, at least, than I think I've ever been able to be in situations like these, especially internally. And so that was good. But at the same time, there were definitely times when, and still are times when I feel my heart sink, I feel the tears come. But that feels natural too. That's all I wanted to share. Yeah. You're still on mute. No, I can't hear you.
Oh, there it goes.
Mhm.
What you said is how we begin to look at things. What we do is we look at the world and we remind ourselves that this world is a dream. In the beginning, we don't understand what that means. We just keep reminding ourselves. Little by little, then you begin to see that it is a dream, that it's not different than the dreams when we close our eyes and dream at night. Sometimes, because you're practicing more, you'll be more aware in your sleep dreams. But you definitely are going to be more aware in your walking around. It is just that way because you will have a wisdom of the present moment, a wisdom of seeing through things. It comes with time. The more you practice, the better it gets. And the better it gets, the quieter you get, the more faith you have, and little by little, it will permeate everything. That's what's important. When we're able to practice in this way, little by little, this world appears differently. We understand this world. It does not befuddle us or confuse us. We are clear about where we're at, are, and what we're doing and what we want to do. This is wisdom. This wisdom now moves from the wisdom of a basic level wisdom to a metaphysical prajna paramita wisdom. And if we follow that wisdom, you'll ultimately get to a wisdom beyond words and phrases, where at that point, this Anyatara Samyak Sambodhi wisdom is no longer wisdom. It is just mind. There's nothing to call wisdom versus not wisdom, because everything belongs to mind. And mind is aware of it. It is just because of causes and conditions, there are parts in mind that are confused and don't see things clearly. When we approach this world in this way, we don't make it worse. We set courses to make it better. I know you have a great Bodhi heart, and you have an interest in helping others, and follow that. Follow that. It will come. It will come to you because of your sincerity. And as you practice, you understand that there is this samsaric alleviation of suffering, but don't lose sight also of helping people become completely liberated. But good, your experiences are where they should be when somebody who's sincerely practicing. So thank you.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Thank you, Gilbert, for your lecture today. It's good to see you, and I hope your retreat went well. I did have a bit of a question regarding meditation, regarding more so the aspect of fear arising in mind. And something that's becoming kind of apparent is the more proper and more right view is applied to meditation, and the ego gets its bubbles popped and its veils torn down. It seems like, at least in my experience, that the ego seems to try to almost like a slingshot shoot fear into mind, or at least create this kind of fear. And I notice it's like it feels like it's a foundation of the ego. And it comes up when, the void starts creeping near, or when, I'm sorry, I'm losing my phrasing a little bit, but it's strange how I wanted to ask is this fear that the ego kind of squeezes at or clings to or tries to throw into mind. This fear is can I ask for some perspective on what this fear is coming from and why the ego really relies on it so heavily and clings to it?
Yeah, I've mentioned before. Hold on. I've mentioned before that there's two characteristics about the ego. One of them is that it has great fear, and the other is that it's very clever. So it will bring up these obstructions in you, like saying, "Oh, you don't want to do that. You don't even know what you're playing with. And you need me," or whatever. It'll create fear, and sometimes it's very, very subtle. It just is subtleness. And I think at this last retreat, I was talking to Harry about this, I think, and we were talking about the subtle movements of the mind. And these are some of the subtle ones where before it could hit you on the top of your head and say, God's going to condemn you to hell, right? Well, I'm sure you're not getting those anymore. So the thing is, those aren't so subtle, but that's why you have to be a Catholic, because you have a chance of going to purgatory. So, but in any case, these things that arise, the more subtler they are, the more insidious they are, and more dangerous that they are. It's like seeing this tiny little snake, little viper, you know, and you go, oh, look at the tiny little snake, but it's extremely poisonous. It will kill you. And it does. We don't get to that. What this nescient entrenchment of ignorance, it's a static defilement, meaning that it doesn't move. It doesn't move around like things like a trip to Disneyland or eating a donut. And donuts aren't static; they're always rolling towards me all the time. But the thing is that something like the self, this latent static defilement, is very subtle and hidden. But we have to take steps to identify it. We don't have to eradicate it. We just have to identify when it's arising in the mind. We don't have to send it to the mind's penal colony. It doesn't work that way. We just understand that these things are vexations in the mind, but they're very subtle vexations. That's why Shifu, he wrote the book, Subtle Wisdom, because in the subtle wisdom, then you send in your own, what I'm calling antibody in there to handle this latent ignorance, so that you understand that it's not in your body, that the body itself is an illusion, and the thoughts arising are illusory arising. No matter what we do, no matter what wisdom we generate in samsara, we're nevertheless in an illusion. We don't understand that. This illusion is not separate from mind and functions by virtue of pratika samappada, which is the nature in which the Buddha nature functions, at least within samsara, or the arising of samsara. That's where it's applicable. And that's why Master Ling Chi saw it in consistent with Nagarjuna, which is he first said that to be afraid of the karma, because you could end up in the belly of a donkey or a cow. But he also said that Ling Chi said that, he searched for 12 years and couldn't find anything the size of a mustard seed that we could call karma, because he's seeing it from the absolute. A perfect, in the same treatise, what appears to be a contradiction is perfect, a precise understanding of Chan Buddhism, where we see that there's an idea of the phenomenal world, and the rules of karma and ignorance apply here. Outside of that is the absolute, which is non-conceptual, inconceivable, infinite, and is true liberation. We don't have to erase samsara. We just have to understand first that it is appearing in mind. Second, it was created by mind. And this is the refinement of the Four Noble Truths, because there is no suffering. There is no cause of suffering, no cessation of suffering, and no path. It's all mind. It's fundamentally empty, fundamentally Buddha nature. When you sit to meditate with this right view, then all these little subtle appearances of ego, these little fears and attractions and whatever, they're neutralized. They don't have an effect on you that they had before. So this Anyatara Samyak Sambodhi, this subtle wisdom, it's not there trying to crank out and make everything go away. It's just ferreting out these last bastions of the ego that are dug in so deep. We have to illuminate them so we know. But most importantly, what kills those, kills may be a strong word, right? What eliminates them, even in their illusory appearances, is the understanding that they're created by the mind. And because of that, they're not really real. So this is how you practice. Work with that, listen to what I'd said, and kind of put it in your practice. And that, I think that'll help you kind of start getting into that subtle wisdom. Okay.
Thank you, Gilbert. Thank you.
Okay, we've got David coming up.
Okay. Again, thank you very much, Gilbert. I was kind of just wondering what sort of question to ask, and I was wondering if you could just say a little more about what serene means, to go with silence.
Serene means, if you look at the statues of Guan Yin or Shakyamuni Buddha or Amitabha Buddha, any of the statues of the Bodhisattvas or the Buddha, they have a look like it's not a grin, it's not a full-blown smile, it's not a frown. It is this appearance of contentment, of not wanting anything, not needing to take anything out. It is just in that moment perfect. And by the way, if you're ever going to buy statues, you know, you have to find the statues, for instance, like Kuan Yin. You don't want to find one with a beautiful feminine face to it. There are some like that for reproduction purposes and stuff, but you want, Guan Yin is neither male nor female. And Guan Yin was historically a male. So it's like it is not represented as male or female. It doesn't have all of those attachments or interest or whatever. Guan Yin is just serene, very quiet. No need to do anything. Just settle perfectly in a state of stillness. When Guan Yin needs to move, then the mind moves. But because of that stillness of Guan Yin, the ability to know the suffering of all sentient beings. Think about this. It's not like going, like a magic mirror and going, oh, I see little Billy has a cold today, or this person has that. It is the ability to instantaneously know the suffering of all sentient beings, even if it's a bee that stung somebody is now soon to die, or the person that received the bee sting, or the bug that's on its back, or the person that's in jail, or the person that was beat up, or whatever it is, the person that goes to sleep with no food in their belly. Instantaneously, all of those things can be perceived. Yet there's a serenity there. There's an interest in alleviating that suffering, and knowing that because everything's created by the mind, it can be done this way. So it is this that's the serenity of being able to know your function, know what you're doing. And if you appear here in this world, then what can you do? You're already here by causes and conditions, so you make the best of it. And you do the things, and you don't fall into the traps. You don't need anything, want anything. Of course, a few gulps of air every now and then is not bad, and some water and food, but you don't have to eat donuts every meal.
That's for
so now
sure.
I only concentrate on the holes. Donut. No. I forget the hole in the middle. I eat the whole donut. But in any case, I'm kind of joking because I can't say I'm really joking. But in any case, that's how it is. There's a serenity there. But it doesn't create an interest that you want to eat more and more and more. I've got to have a donut, and or whatever it is. There's a serenity there that doesn't need to do anything. When you sit to meditate, there's a serenity that you don't need to uncross your legs. You don't need to know what time it is. You don't need to push thoughts out or push in good thoughts. Everything is perfectly in its place in accordance with Pratika Samappada, causes and conditions. Mind sitting in mind, contemplating mind. That's serenity. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other last questions? Yeah, Harry and Jake. Okay. We'll Harry first.
Hi,
Hold on,
Gilbert.
let me put this volume up.
Nice to see you. So you're saying you always tell the whole truth, right? Because of the donuts. Um, so I wanted to ask you.
I do eat I do. Oh, just real quick. I do eat the donut whole.
Oh, good. Wanted to ask if you'd say something a little bit about the relationship between right view and right intention, because you're always emphasizing right view, but isn't it in the right intention where the compassion is really born, or is it? I don't know. I just wanted to see what you'd say in terms of like connecting the two.
Can you say the first part again?
Yeah, I just wanted to see how you thought of the connection, the transition from right view to right intention or right attitude, as Jack Kornfield calls it. Just because you're often emphasizing right view, and then I was wondering where you see right intention coming in as we act in the world, with a lot of the examples that you gave about having kind of this instant compassionate view when we see suffering.
I think it all springs from compassion, whether we say right intention or right conduct or whatever. When we talk about right intention and right conduct, even right concentration, right occupation, all of these things, or the paramitas or the precepts, those are guidelines for people to follow on a secondary level. I'm not saying that they shouldn't follow them. I'm just saying they're guidelines to do that for the sake of keeping the mind quiet. But it is this right view that enables the mind to do that. And it is this right view that transcends that kind of an idea that we're not really trying to be the best Boy Scout in the world or Girl Scout. And by the way, if I was going to be one of them, I'd probably be a Girl Scout because they have really good cookies. So now I'm discriminating against donuts. But in any case, the point is this, is that all of these other things that we do, they're again building the staircase to heaven. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. And we're fooling ourselves because there's no self there. It's the self nature of mind. And all we have to do is using the mind's eye and comporting ourselves to this true and proper understanding. If you see the treatises of the masters, that's how they start off. If you want to practice properly, you have to have a true and proper understanding. It is that true and proper understanding put into practice that enables one to, or enables mind to be settled. So it's a kind of a different viewpoint. When we go, oh, this is the right intention, then that comes from the samsaric side. When our mind is in right view, mind is watching mind. Even if it's in samsara, it belongs to mind. It belongs to, let's say, the absolute. And so it isn't trying to find an escape route out of samsara. The way to escape from samsara is to put it in a proper focus that it belongs to mind, that there is no such thing as samsara. But nevertheless, we carry out the function. We say we, the Buddha mind, carries out the function to alleviate suffering by virtue of this unbridled compassion. This is just the quality of the mind there, and distinguishes it from nihilistic ideas of what mind is, which is very, very important. All right, I'm going to move on. Thank you, Harry, for your question. AJ.
Okay. Thanks, Gilbert. This was an excellent lecture. I just wanted to sort of share something about my practice and maybe confirm an understanding based on something that you said today. I've been trying to incorporate more of this right concentration into my practice. And I think like coming from the place of being new and starting with clinging, like grasping the method, I think that it's sort of uncomfortable in a way to concentrate less in the way of the assassin, I guess. And I think the reason for that is that when I am grasping the method, I at least sort of know that if my mind is not on the method, I'm doing something wrong. And there's sort of like, I at least kind of have some sort of a guideline for how to meditate. And I think when I try to bring right concentration to the cushion, I get uncomfortable because I lose that sort of sense of direction. And I think that maybe that's coming from a misunderstanding of me thinking that I am working towards some sort of correct meditation. And I have to let go of that idea.
Yeah.
I guess. Okay. That's my comment.
It is the right concentration that works. And when you are trying to hold the method like you're doing, you're coming from the viewpoint of the ego holding the method. Again, this goes back to Sam and this very subtle wisdom applied that sees the ego, which is hiding there under the surface. And so you don't see it, but you can smell it. You know, it influences the things around you. In the concentration that I'm mentioning, it isn't concentration from samsara. It's a concentration of this true and correct understanding that all things being understood, even with a samsaric understanding, why wouldn't the mind be silent and serene at all times? It is its nature to be that way. And so we start with that, and then it's ours to lose. So then when all of a sudden the thoughts come up, Then we use our wisdom to illuminate that these thoughts have arisen, and then we see them. One of the things I think it helps a lot of people is that that the crime is not in that the thoughts arise in mind. It is in the failure to identify that the thoughts have arisen in mind. This is very important. And when you practice and you're quiet and serene, when you have a thought, it will disturb that serenity. So you invest in the stability of the mind. But when all of a sudden you're going, oh, my legs hurt, or oh, what am I going to do with this, or what's happening, in my life, or whatever, then you don't even know that you're off. But if you start with silent and serene, now you have something to compare. And it's not an imagination, because that's just the way the mind works. It's quiet. So you start with it being quiet. And then when you're off, then you use your wisdom to pull you back to that. And you just keep coming back to that. And then you reset the game, you reset it, the awareness is there, you're relaxed, body and mind. You pick up the method, you contemplate the method, and you concentrate on continuing to contemplate the method. So this concentration has a continuity to it, which is important. And so if you can maintain the continuity, then it will work. If you don't, then you'll be jumping all over the place. Okay, so try that and see how that works for you. Okay, Robert, you'll be the last one because we're running into a time crunch here.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Gilbert. Thank you very much. Glad to see you come back. I have a question relating to method, and it's also relating to the last two Monday when Santa was sitting for the two session, and she carried out some very excellent teaching and exercise, and I took some note, and that seems to have a turning point in my practice. And when it comes to method, it become very easy after that. And Santa, remember she said to accord. The special word is to accord with, and she said to accord with whatever the mental state you are in. So just be acceptable, be agreeable, accepting, adapting, because everything is Pratya Samaprada. And after that 5 minutes of sitting, for years, I've been using the counting method, either the counting the name of the Buddha or the counting the breath. But now it becomes so easy. I get into a very easy watching or knowing mode. It's almost like I'm under the tree, just close my eye, and it's like seeing the thought coming in very fast or very slow, and the special word that Santa introduced last week, to accord with, is almost like a catalyst. It just stay there. But that catalyst seems to be the magic wand, or the magic, or the secret, or whatever you can. I can't find a name to it. It's just suddenly transformed the entire meditation. The whole sitting become very easy, very quiet. The thought comes as they come. It doesn't bother me. I know what thoughts come, and I know as they slowly fade away. And then the next one will come. I even notice between thought, there are moments where there's no thought. It's oh well, no thought. So be it. And then after a little while, a whole bunch of thought rush in. And I notice the thought came in. I say, oh well, I know, I'm upset. Fine. Next. I just keep sitting there. And my question is, am I giving up a method that Dharma Drum has been teaching counting the breath, counting the Buddha name. It's like it become a habit. But am I doing something like a method of no method by just sitting and doing nothing, or it's just sitting and just watching and accepting and just let everything come, everything go. That's why you saw the message. You saw me wrote on the forum. It's like all of a sudden my whole practice, it becomes so easy. It becomes very, very, it's beyond comfortable. It's it's very relaxing, I feel very light, very free. I can sit as long as I wish, and I can pause, stop anytime, and then go back in very easily. Uh, what is going on? Am I am I giving up the traditional counting method and going into something that I'm not what I don't know what I'm going into, but that is what is happening right now. And I really appreciate Santa's teaching last 2 weeks, and that was an excellent 2 sessions that she helped everybody gone through while you're up there. So but the question is in my mind for 2 weeks. So I appreciate uh, maybe you can help me out a little bit. Thank you. Thank you.
First of all, I want to clarify something because I was listening to Santa the first class. I wasn't able to hear on the second night because I was in the air, but it is that we accord the mind with whatever mental states we find. Essentially, it is not our mental state. That's why I was trying to clarify tonight that mental states are things that appear in mind. They are not mind itself, and it isn't. If we take it as our own mental state, then we're creating a duality there of subject and object. It is not in that way, and I don't believe that was what Santa intended. I mean, you got some of it, which is good. It's just you want to take it to a little bit deeper level that where you just probably, Robert, the thing that's the most beneficial of what you're doing is maintaining that awareness. We call that non-conceptual wakefulness. So the mind is awake and it's not creating any kind of clinging, but it isn't that the mind is creating the clinging from the consciousness. It's not creating a clinging to an ego. This is really important. We're no longer at your level of practice fighting vexations in the mind. You are aware of the ego that brings forth these vexations. And so when we're sitting quietly, the ego has nothing to try to do. It'll come up and bring in a brass band to get you off your method. You're hungry, your legs hurt, whatever. But it's all something that's egocentric in its nature. This is a mental state. So if we accord with it, then it means that we're aware that this mental state is appearing, but it has nothing to do with mind. It is just causes and conditions. So we let it go. We don't try to perfect it. Trying to perfect it, chase it off, or whatever will just sink it in deeper and deeper into mind. It makes it harder to do. It's like if you got a splinter in your finger and you're pushing it with a pin back in deeper, that's not going to work. So instead, we simply see that that splinter will be removed on its own when we don't attach to that, because in fact there's no splinter there. And so as we begin to practice, we use this profound wisdom to practice. Once we start using this profound wisdom to practice, then the mind on its own becomes very, very clear, because its nature is to be clear. So the very nature of what the Tibetans refer to as Rigpa is this clear awareness of the mind. That's where you're at right now. Don't give it a name. Don't give it any kind of a label, any kind of a mental state, any kind of anything. Just practice this true and proper understanding, and don't try to measure it in any way, okay? And it'll work for you. Just stay where you're at right now, but just keep bringing yourself back to the fact that you're not attaching to any of this, okay? Including attaching to not attaching from the ego, because that's an insidious one too, that you become attached to trying to purge the mind from thought, which is very bad. You know, it doesn't work that way. We see through the thoughts. We see, because those thoughts are not other than mind too. Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you.
yeah, Santa, go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you, Gilbert.
Give me a second.
Beautiful.
Change it.
So I want to say, Robert, if Robert appears, let Robert pass as well.
That's pretty much it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That it is in this way, and again, the ego is very, very insidious in its ways of worming its way back through. It hides like a trapdoor spider and then comes out and takes a bite and then goes back in again. In the beginning, it's like a big giant scary clown that scares you all the time, and after a while, then when you get tired of that and you see through it, then it becomes very subtle. So anyway, that's good. I hope that you all have been able to pick up something from this. Thank you for attending. We'll pick it up next week. I've got a lot of material that I can go on lately. So please continue to do that. Get on Mighty Networks. There's been a lot of good material on the Mind Work Forum on Mighty Networks. That's there. So anyway, I'll be back for a while, so you'll be seeing me next week. Thank you all. I'm going to kind of cut it off because I can't have a dialogue right now with the way in the sound system set up. So I'll try to figure it out before next week, as I always say. Okay.